Isaiah 26:3, you keep in perfect peace those whose minds are stayed on you. Lord, fill me with strength to turn my attention toward you.
The world was stunned when news broke that Charlie Kirk, the controversial political commentator and founder of Turning Point USA, had been shot and killed during a public speaking event at Utah Valley University. At just 31 years old, Kirk's death sent shockwaves through political circles, the media, and, unexpectedly, Hollywood. Among the earliest and most surprising celebrity voices to react was actor Chris Pratt. Known for his roles in Guardians of the Galaxy and Jurassic World, Pratt took to social media with a heartfelt message that instantly made headlines. But what he said, and how he said it, ignited debate across the political spectrum. Was it a simple prayer, or something more? As the tributes poured in and tensions flared, Chris Pratt's response became more than just a statement. It became a lightning rod in a country still reeling from the tragedy. What followed was a story not just of grief, but of unexpected courage and the complex intersection of faith, fame, and free speech. Within hours of the tragic news that Charlie Kirk had been shot and killed during a speaking event at Utah Valley University, Chris Pratt took to social media. His message was simple yet heartfelt, praying for Charlie Kirk right now, for his wife and young children, for our country. We need God's grace. God help us. That single line resonated far beyond the screen. Retweets and shares mounted, comments poured in from all sides, some offering support, others dissecting his words. But the core of Pratt's message wasn't political. It was rooted in prayer, empathy, and a plea for healing. Unlike statements laden with ideology or blame, Pratt's post used universal language, family grief, national anguish, faith, and a call for grace. It acknowledged pain without pointing fingers. Media outlets quickly picked up the post, highlighting how a well-known Hollywood actor had chosen to lead with compassion, not confrontation. On Newsweek, they noted Pratt's words as a prayer in a moment of public pain. And on LAD Bible, they summarized it as a sincere message to console and call for unity. This response marked Pratt's voice among a chorus of reactions, some loud, others reflective, some deeply political. Pratt's stood out for its brevity and tenderness. He didn't mention policy, ideology, or blame. He didn't align himself with any side. He simply expressed grief, concern for Kirk's family, and a yearning for divine mercy. What followed would be revealing, both in how the public responded and in how Pratt's post positioned him, as a figure reaching across divides in a moment when many rushed to draw lines. Chris Pratt's brief, prayerful post triggered an avalanche of responses, some compassionate, others critical, and many caught somewhere in the emotional fog that followed the news of Charlie Kirk's death. Supporters praised Pratt for leading with heart. Fans, both religious and secular, commented that his words were what we needed right now, noting the actor's consistency in using his platform to promote unity and prayer in the face of tragedy. Many shared screenshots of Pratt's past statements from other tragedies, calling him a rare figure in Hollywood, someone unafraid to speak of faith without preaching or politicizing. However, not everyone received it that way. Critics questioned the timing, the vagueness, and even the sincerity of the post. Some argued that referencing Kirk at all, given his political background, was a coded political statement, even though Pratt had made no mention of politics whatsoever. Still, others misunderstood Pratt's message entirely, interpreting it as an endorsement of Kirk's views, which wasn't the case. The reaction revealed the growing difficulty celebrities face when commenting on real-world tragedies, especially when the individual involved is politically polarizing. But Pratt never responded to the backlash. He didn't delete or edit his post, and perhaps that silence was intentional. To him, the message stood on its own. While the internet dissected and debated, Chris Pratt stayed true to the tone he had set. He wasn't trying to debate policy. He wasn't aligning himself with any political movement. He was mourning a loss and expressing concern for a grieving family. In a time when public reactions often spiral into statements, counters, and clarifications, Pratt's decision to keep quiet after his initial post became part of the story. It wasn't about taking sides. It was about showing sorrow and restraint in a moment of national tension. What would follow, however, would pull even more voices into the conversation as other celebrities began to weigh in, and the discussion surrounding Charlie Kirk's death only grew louder. As the shockwaves from Charlie Kirk's sudden passing continued to ripple across social media, Chris Pratt's message ended up being the quiet spark that pulled other voices into the storm. What began as a simple gesture of sympathy turned into an unplanned moment of reflection for the entertainment industry. And soon, more public figures, many of whom rarely engage with political stories, began to weigh in, not necessarily about Kirk himself, but about the meaning of loss in such turbulent times. Some, like Matthew McConaughey, emphasized unity. He posted a short message urging people to take a deep breath before judging one another, hinting at the volatility that surrounded the online reaction to Kirk's legacy. Tim Allen, who has spoken openly about his own struggles navigating political perceptions in Hollywood, simply commented a praying hands emoji under Pratt's original post, saying everything and nothing all at once. Mark Wahlberg, a fellow man of faith in the entertainment world, followed Pratt's lead by sharing a post reminding people that loss isn't a time to keep score. He didn't mention Kirk by name, but it was clear what he was referencing. Others, like Candace Cameron Bure, offered direct condolences to Kirk's family while steering clear of political commentary entirely. But it wasn't just actors. A handful of country musicians like Jason Aldean and Morgan Wallen shared quiet tributes, again focused not on policy, but on the suddenness of losing someone so publicly recognizable. This wave of public mourning, distinctly nonpartisan, shaped a rare moment where Hollywood's usual ideological divide seemed to take a step back. Not to agree or disagree, but to observe the humanity in grief. Still, that didn't stop critics from analyzing every word, every silence, and every emoji. In an age where mourning is political, every reaction is scanned under a microscope. But through it all, Chris Pratt's initial tone of quiet dignity held strong, and in many ways, it shaped the tone for the rest who followed. Chris Pratt's name trended for over 36 hours, not because of a film, not for a press tour, and not even for anything he said that was directly political. It trended because his choice to mourn someone like Charlie Kirk openly, with grace and without agenda, opened the door to a flood of speculation, backlash, and surprising support. Some praised his courage, others questioned his intentions, but nearly everyone had something to say. Online, users split sharply. Some thanked Pratt for being one of the few major Hollywood stars willing to humanize someone like Kirk in death. Others accused him of amplifying a polarizing figure. But lost in the noise was the simplicity of what Chris had actually said. His message was rooted in faith, peace, and the shared human experience of grief. Pratt did not offer a political endorsement. He didn't echo Kirk's views or justify them. Instead, he acknowledged the loss as a father, a brother, a son, a human being. Still, the internet dissected every syllable. News outlets ran headlines like, "Chris Pratt, breaks Hollywood's silence on Charlie Kirk death, spinning a moment of mourning into a narrative battlefield. Even within Hollywood, the response to Pratt's post revealed the invisible lines drawn between image and ideology. A few stars unfollowed him in quiet protest, but others sent him private messages of support. One insider claimed that several Marvel castmates privately reached out to commend him for staying grounded. No names were made public, but the undertones spoke volumes. And while Chris himself remained silent in the days that followed, choosing not to clarify or debate his post, his silence may have said even more. By refusing to engage in the online arguments, Pratt's stance seemed to become a statement in itself, that you could show compassion without needing to justify it to the world. In an age where every tweet becomes a trial, Chris Pratt's reaction reminded people, whether they agreed with him or not, that death should still be a place where silence can speak, where grace can exist, and where empathy doesn't always need an explanation. In the wake of Chris Pratt's statement and the wave of public reaction, the entertainment industry found itself quietly reacting behind the scenes. For most major studios and production companies, the strategy was clear. Silence is the safest statement. Press representatives reportedly advised Pratt to let the tribute stand on its own, avoiding follow-up commentary or interviews. A source close to the Jurassic World set, where Pratt has long-standing projects underway, remarked, "Pratt didn't come into work the same way. The mood shifted. Some crew members asked if he was okay. He simply said, 'I'm grieving.'" That honesty, though brief, illuminated how personal even political moments have become in Hollywood's collaborative environment. Across the board, conversations shifted. Publicists held closed meetings about how future emotional statements might impact public perception. Marketing teams drafted fallback plans in case Chris's comment affected box office reception or casting scrutiny. Nobody wanted a headline to derail the next blockbuster or family-friendly franchise. Interestingly, some of Pratt's co-stars stepped forward privately, not on Instagram or Twitter, but in more intimate ways. One Marvel co-star, who asked to remain anonymous, shared, "We all got text messages from him. Not PR talk, just a person asking how we were." These quiet gestures became powerful signals to others in the industry. Grief can unify where ideology divides. On the flip side, streaming platforms began adjusting playlists that had previously featured apolitical solidarity or patriotic themes. Fans noticed some of Pratt's songs dropped from certain mood-based auto playlists. Whether that was coincidence or a reactive algorithm shift wasn't clear, but it didn't go unnoticed. As far as bookings and endorsements, Pratt didn't receive any public cancellations. His upcoming film promotions continued, albeit with slightly toned-down messaging. Brands that had parted ways with him in the past over unrelated controversies remained distant. But new supporters emerged, sending tributes, encouraging his integrity, and offering platonic, non-political encouragement. Through it all, Pratt didn't pivot or clarify. He didn't release a second statement. He didn't debate critics or talk points. That decision in itself became something resembling a policy, one that prioritized authenticity over damage control and compassion over trending discourse. Whether this will influence how other actors handle sudden public grief or political hot-button reactions remains unseen. But one thing is clear: Chris Pratt's choice to speak, simply and from the heart, rippled deeper than a social post. It tremored through the very fabric of Hollywood's machinery, forcing both people and businesses alike to ask, in moments of true loss, why should humanity ever fight for footing behind politics? Chris Pratt's prayer post, simple, heartfelt, and non-political, did not remain quietly received. Instead, It lit a firestorm online, especially among fans of the Marvel Universe, where Pratt plays a beloved character. Some applauded him for expressing compassion in a chaotic moment. Others questioned why he would acknowledge someone as controversial as Charlie Kirk. Marvel fans in particular split. Many posted supportive messages, saying things like, "Good on you for praying and thinking of others." Others fired back. "Why now? What about all the other injustices?" In a flood of comments, debates erupted over consistency, morality, and the role of celebrities speaking out. In response to the volume of reactions, Pratt shared a Bible verse on his Instagram. No name, no context, just scripture. It felt like a gentle reminder of why he wrote his original message: prayer, not politics. He followed that with one more sincere post. Take a moment, go outside, call someone you haven't spoken to. That image of a tree and open sky wasn't a call to choose sides, it was an invitation to breathe. Still, not everyone saw it that way. A minority of fans reacted sharply, accusing Pratt of being tone-deaf or opportunistic. "You're an actor, entertain us, don't politicize," some wrote. Others said Pratt was seeking attention or trying to stay relevant by diving into trending topics. Despite the turmoil, there's another layer here. Several of Pratt's fellow actors, particularly within the Marvel crew, sent private messages of support. One source described the mood on set as quietly respectful. No grand speeches, but a shared understanding that grief doesn't always come wrapped in controversy. Media outlets continued covering the backlash, debating what it revealed about, among celebrities, their relationship to political events. Some argued Pratt's reaction highlighted a need for empathy even toward divisive figures. Others said it proved the unavoidable tightrope celebrities walk when commenting on high-profile tragedies. Chris Pratt didn't post again for days. His silence echoed as loudly as his words. This moment, pray first, speak less, breathe longer, became an unexpected case study. In an era where everything becomes political, what does it mean when a public figure simply chooses to bring people back to a moment of quiet humanity? As the dust settled on the digital battlefield, a different kind of reaction emerged. One that didn't come from Hollywood studios or political commentators, but from churches, Christian influencers, and faith leaders. Chris Pratt, long known for his outspoken belief in God, had unintentionally sparked a conversation that went far beyond Charlie Kirk. It became a flashpoint for the broader cultural role of faith itself. Mega pastors, YouTube pastors, and local faith communities began referencing Pratt's simple "prayer for the family" comment in their sermons and podcasts. Not to praise Charlie Kirk, who remained divisive even in Christian circles, but to focus on the value of pausing to grieve, to pray, and to show compassion, especially in polarized times. One pastor noted, "You don't have to agree with someone's politics to mourn their death. Jesus wept for people who didn't vote like him." Another said, "Chris Pratt reminded us that kindness doesn't need approval." Interestingly, Pratt didn't follow up with a sermon of his own. He didn't post again about the issue. He didn't defend his beliefs. He didn't try to capitalize on the spotlight. And maybe that's what gave his message more power. It stood alone. No hashtags, no merch drops, no podcast tour, just silence and stillness in the storm. But that silence resonated loudly. It reminded some of the way Mr. Rogers would respond to tragedy. Not with blame, but with comfort. A few viral clips began circulating on TikTok and Instagram, comparing Pratt's post to older messages from celebrities like Denzel Washington or Keanu Reeves, who've also been praised for quiet empathy rather than political reaction. The message was clear, even if it was unspoken. Not every response needs to be a take. not every tragedy needs to become content. Sometimes, a single sentence is enough. Still, the tension in the air didn't disappear. People remained divided, not about Pratt himself, but about what his post represented. To some, it was a reminder that empathy still has a place online. To others, it felt like the latest example of celebrities stepping into controversial territory without asking the hard questions. And yet, something had shifted. Not in Hollywood, not in politics, but in the way regular people talked to each other about loss, faith, and silence. Chris Pratt may not have intended to start a spiritual conversation, but in a world where shouting is the norm, his whisper was heard. In the days that followed Chris Pratt's understated tribute to Charlie Kirk, the conversation didn't explode. It echoed, the kind of slow, steady hum that lingers when a stone is dropped in still water. There wasn't a headline-grabbing debate. There wasn't a viral backlash. Just a strange, reflective calm that settled over both fans and critics. No follow-up from Chris. No network interviews. No clarifying statement. It was as if the message had been delivered in full already. That silence became the punctuation mark on a moment of unexpected reverence. And yet, his words continued to ripple through unexpected spaces. A conservative student group at a university held a candlelight vigil, not just for Kirk, but for respectful dialogue. A progressive podcast gave a rare nod of appreciation to Pratt, not for political alignment, but for dignity in the digital age. A country music artist tweeted simply, "We need more like him." Even more curiously, celebrities who typically never wade into political waters began posting ambiguous tributes of their own. Not to Charlie Kirk directly, but to the idea of grieving well, even in conflict. Actors, comedians, athletes, people from across the spectrum shared quiet images of candles, verses, or blank space, offering their own forms of respect. The moment didn't unify America. Nothing ever really does. But it did reveal something important, that amid all the noise, there is still room for grace. Chris Pratt didn't change the world. He didn't end division. But maybe he reminded people that not every response has to be loud, that grief can exist without agenda, that prayer doesn't require permission from the internet, that in a world trained to shout, sometimes the most powerful thing a man can do is whisper. And maybe, just maybe, that whisper will be remembered long after the shouting fades.